Curse you, operator! You'll never disconnect me again! Now, my automatic switch will take my revenge.
1891. An Undertaker builds a machine to get back at a woman on a switchboard. And that machine is the reason you can dial a number today. I've been in phones and voice my whole working life. VoIP, PBXs, SIP trunks, the lot. And I only found this story last week. Here's what happened. Every time somebody in his town rang the exchange asking for an Undertaker, the operator put them through to his competitor because the operator was his competitor's wife. Now, he doesn't complain. He doesn't ring the phone company. He goes home and builds a machine to take her job. Hat pins and electromagnets. Think about that for a second. Automated call handling, invented in 1891 by a small business owner who was sick of missing calls. 135 years later, we're still solving that exact problem. Stick around because this story ends up explaining exactly why an AI can answer your phone today. Right, let's do the whole thing. Morse code to analog to mobile to voice AI. Start at the beginning. 1844. Morse runs a wire from Washington to Baltimore, sends the first message, "What hath God wrought?" Now here's the bit everyone skips. Your voice didn't travel. Dots and dashes travelled. You needed a trained operator at both ends. One to turn you into code, one to turn the code back into words. So the very first voice interface was a bloke sitting there translating you into machine. 32 years later, Bell gets the patent, March 1876. 3 days on, he says the famous one, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." Now this is analog, and I want to be precise about it because it matters later. Analog means the wire carries a physical copy of the sound wave. Your voice goes in one end, a copy comes out the other. That's it. Nothing's stored, nothing's understood. It's just a copy. 1878. First commercial exchange, New Haven, Connecticut. And in 1880, we get ours, Melbourne. 23 subscribers. Run out of the old stock exchange building on Collins Street. Here's what I love about this. To ring anybody at all, you talk to a human first. You picked up, and a person said, "Number please." She routed your call. She knew who you were. She'd take a message if you weren't there. Basically, she was the original voice agent. And everything since, everything I've worked on my whole career has been an attempt to replace her. Which brings us back to our Undertaker, Almond Strowger. Patents that switch in 1891. First exchange goes live in LaPorte, Indiana the year after. 10 rows, 10 contacts each, 99 customers, handled automatically, nobody listening in. And that design ran in networks around the world until the late 1970s, 80-odd years. I've worked on gear that's a direct descendant of that thing. Same idea, just smaller. That's the first time a machine, rather than a person, handled your call. Then, 18th of November, 1963, Bell launches touch-tone dialing in Pennsylvania, buttons instead of a dial. But that's not the important bit. The important bit is those tones are data. The switch can read them. And once the switch can read what you press, you get the phone menu. Press 1 for accounts. Press 2 for support. That's the first time the phone system asked you a question. And let's be honest with each other. That's also the moment answering the phone got worse. We automated the call, sure. But we did it by making the customer do the work. I've built those menus for people for years. And yeah, nobody thanked me for one. Now hold that thought, because there's a second story running alongside all of this, and it starts a bit earlier. While the network was learning to read what you pressed, other people were trying to make a machine read what you said. 1952, Bell Labs builds a thing called Audrey. It recognizes spoken digits. That's it, just numbers. 1976, Carnegie Mellon builds Harpy for a DARPA challenge. Just over 1,000 words. 1,000 words. That was a national research challenge. Your phone does that mid-sentence now, without thinking about it. Park that. We'll come back to it. 1973, 3rd of April. Martin Cooper from Motorola stands on a street in Manhattan and makes the first handheld mobile call to Joel Engel at Bell Labs, his competitor. Which, I mean, that's twice now. Strowger and Cooper. This whole industry runs on spite. Just over a kilo, that handset. 20 minutes of talk time. First one you could actually buy came 10 years later, 1983. Nearly $4,000. And us, February 1987. They switched on the Analogue mobile network with an event at the Sydney Opera House with skydivers. Genuinely, skydivers. First call was the telecom boss, ringing the communications minister. Now, this next bit is the part I actually know something about, so let me do it properly. There's 3 steps: analog, then digital, then VoIP. Analog we've done. The wire carries a copy of your voice, 1 wire, 1 call, that's your lot. Then digital, 27th of April, 1993, we switch on the digital network, and digital means your voice isn't a copy anymore. It gets sampled, chopped up into numbers thousands of times a second, which sounds worse. It's actually better, because numbers you can compress, you can copy them perfectly, you can squeeze thousands of calls down one line. And this stat still gets me. In 93, there were 635,000 analog mobiles in the whole country. Under 4% of people had one. That's in my lifetime. Probably yours too. Analog got switched off for good in September 2000, 124 years after Bell. Done. But before the 3rd step could happen, something else had to come first. And this bit's my favourite because it happens backwards. The internet arrived on the phone line. Modems. That screeching handshake noise. Dial-up. You'd tie up the house phone to get online, and someone would pick up the handset in the other room and kill your connection dead. And what that modem was actually doing was clever. It turned computer data into sound, so it could travel down a line built for voices. Data pretending to be a voice. Then through the 90s, the whole thing goes off. Everyone gets online, connections get quick, broadband, then fiber. No more tying up the phone. And once the internet was faster and cheaper than the phone network, somebody turned it round the other way. Instead of data pretending to be a voice down a phone line, your voice became data traveling down an internet line. That's VoIP. That's the 3rd step. Once your voice is just numbers, it doesn't need the phone network at all. It goes over the internet in packets, same as an email or a web page. And that's what I've spent most of my career on. SIP trunks, PBXs, all of it. But here's why it matters for this story. On the old network, a call was a wire between 2 people, physical. You couldn't get in the middle of it. On VoIP, a call is just data arriving at a server. And if it's just data arriving at a server, then the thing that answers doesn't have to be a person anymore. That right there is the whole ball game. And then 2007, the iPhone. Now, everyone remembers that as the phone getting a proper touchscreen. That's not the important bit. The important bit is the phone stopped being a phone. It became a computer that could also make calls. And once everyone's walking around with a computer in their pocket, with a microphone in it and a data connection, somebody was always going to try talking to it. And they did. Siri, 2011. Alexa, 2014. Now remember Audrey back in 52? Digits only. 60 years later, Siri could handle a whole sentence. Genuinely impressive. But here's the thing that ties this whole video together. For 60 years, all of it could only ever transcribe. Audrey, Harpy, Siri, the lot. The machine heard the words. It never understood the call. And that gap closed. Properly closed. In the last couple of years, you take speech to text, feed it into a large language model, push it back out through text to speech, or you skip the middle and go straight speech to speech. Either way, you're answering in under a second, which means it doesn't route the call anymore. It has the call. It works out what you actually want. It asks the follow-up. It books the job, and it writes the whole thing down for you. So the operator's back. 145 years after 23 people in Melbourne picked up and heard number please. Something is answering the phone for you again. It's just software now. And the genuinely mad part? You can build one. Strowger needed hat pins and a patent. Bell Labs needed a research budget and 10 years. You need a weekend. Speech to text. A language model. Text to speech, a SIP trunk, and something to tie it all together, which is the dashboard I built on top of LiveKit. 135 years of trying to replace the switchboard operator, and it's now a side project. So if that's something you fancy having a go at, I've got a free school community full of people building voice agents. Links in the description. Come and hang out, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.